Broadcasting live from a rural cabin, this is the Monstrous Feminine Podcast, the film club where we dissect the eerie intersections of gender and horror. My name is Louisa, and I'm joined by my college friends,
Tyia
and Zeba.
And this is our last episode covering horror parody films. We're talking about the 2022 horror comedy, The Blackening, directed by Tim Story. Mila is off sick this episode, but she'll be back soon. Before we get into the film, go ahead and follow us on Spotify, YouTube, or the Apple Podcasts app. You can find all of our links on our Instagram at the Monstrous Feminine Podcast.
In The Blackening, 7 friends from college reunite for a weekend getaway in the woods to celebrate Juneteenth. There's tension in the group between Lisa and her best friend Dwayne as he disapproves of her getting back together with her unfaithful ex Namdi. While exploring the rental, the group, comprised of only black people, discover a racist talking board game that forces them to answer stereotypical questions and trivia related to black history and culture in America. The group are then terrorized by a masked killer with a crossbow. Fearing for their lives, they plot ways to take down the killer and escape.
You are a black character in a horror movie. Prove that you can stay alive. Name one black character that survived a horror movie. You must answer correctly, or you die.
Oh, so this is just an aggressively themed trivia game.
Hold up. Were there even in horror movies when this game was created?
Baby, you're thinking too much about this, all right? I know the answer. It is Jada Pinkett, Omar Epps, Scream 2. Boom, Sambo.
Then this was the first to die. What are you talking about? I honestly think that the studio didn't have the budget to keep him the whole movie. Mm-hmm. That's why they had to die first.
So in the game, it was like your least black trait is what you would say so you can survive, correct? So for example, if I could not play spades, that could be mine. But I can, let the record state.
I can as well.
To be fair, I can't play any card game. I don't be playing cards.
Right. Okay. I have to think on this one. I feel like I got a lot of things.
Of like what you would say to save yourself?
Yeah.
Mine's really easy. I feel like simply having a white mom is pretty, like, you know, white mom, black dad is pretty.
And what's her name used that as her defense?
Oh, did she? I didn't remember that. Okay, I didn't remember that. I also liked Friends. They said the ones that are also my one.
There's absolutely no way that I would win this, considering I'm the only monoracial black person here.
But fine, save yourself, Tyia. Me and Louisa are on the chopping block.
It's more of a spiritual quality rather than a literal. So what is your spiritually whitest trait that you do, quote unquote?
My spiritually whitest trait that I do, white boys.
Oh strong
that's
contender.
A good answer. Yeah, that's a good answer.
I don't know. Oh, I have terrible shoe game. I think that my shoes are always ugly and dirty and out of trend.
that was like a severe self roast.
I mean, it's my truth, and I'm trying to live. So
yeah, I too don't really care about like sneaker culture.
I've never laid my edges in my life. I will not conform to edge slicking conspiracy. Oh, I thought of another point. I can't cook. So there's that. I'm not I can cook well enough for me, but as far as throwing down, I would not claim that title.
No, I can throw down. I'm even doing Friendsgiving this year.
I have had Louisa's cooking. I would say 10 out of 10.
Thank you, bestie.
The Monstrous Feminine is on YouTube, so please go subscribe and leave us a comment on one of our videos. If you do engage with our content, you might just get a shout out in our next episode as our Witch of the Week. This episode, our Witch of the Week is Moses, who commented on our Ma episode and said, I am definitely a part of the Ma cult. I'm absolutely obsessed with her insane antics in this movie and was never bored with it. Thanks, Moses. Me too. After watching this movie and honestly seeing this thumbnail, it is really increasing my desire to get a fuck-ass bob. So if you think I should get one, feel free to leave a comment.
If we get flooded with comments that are like, yeah, Tyia, get a fuck-ass bob, pull a Ma, I'm gonna be so excited, and you could low-key have to do it.
Yeah, we could put it on a poll.
Thank you so much. And friendly reminder, we're also on Patreon and Substack. You can find all of our links and information on our social media. Please support us. Any contribution helps.
What did you guys think of this movie? Did you have a good time?
I had a good time. I saw this movie with my mom and my sister on separate occasions, and then recently again by myself to make this episode. And honestly, very funny. I make fun of all of my friends who can't play spades, but also when I play spades, I am a different person. I talk so much trash to anyone that I'm playing spades with, you would not recognize me as an individual. But now I feel like I have to teach y'all so you can see this.
I totally believe that. Come over. We play spades we put on a spades game at my apartment. It's brown liquor, it's Newports, it's friendships tested. I watched this movie on a plane for the first time. It was a perfect plane movie.
Oh, that is a good plane movie.
I was hee ha ha in my seat. My seat partner was like, "What are you watching?" Yeah. Then I watched it again. Yeah, and with friends, it's also great with friends. But if I was going to watch it alone, I feel like plane was the best environment. And yeah, I also had a good time. Generally positive. Would watch it again. I put it on my October Halloween watch list. My 30 days of spooky movies. So, did you like it, Louisa?
I am not really one for the parody horrors, but I do feel like this was funny. There were some things that genuinely got me, like when they said, because Namdi is African, they said he's still in the packaging black. That made me laugh a lot. So there were some good one-liners in there.
The killer is my favorite fucking part of it. That I like. If we could get into it, we could get into it. But like, this is unironically one of my favorite horror movie villains, killers in horror cinema history. I love. Well, are we saying it? I don't know what we're saying it. Like, not like people haven't watched the film. Should have watched the movie if you're listening to this episode. Clifton is the funniest name I've ever heard. Something about it really tickles my funny bone. Anytime they're calling Clifton by name, I have to laugh. It's such an unserious. He's just such an unserious character. Like, if he had real, beef with the world, if they had given any gravity to his reasoning, I think it would have been ruined. I thought it was silly and goofy, and it's well set up for a sequel. I want more.
I did wonder, I was like, it is ironic that the killer is black. And I mean, I know that's the whole point, but I was like, it's like at the hands of all this racism and then the killer is black. I was like, an interesting choice, but whatever,
I thought it was hilarious because me and my sister are always talking about there's a certain brand of black guy who will be like, I was called an Oreo in school, and they grow up and they genuinely are angry at the black community and no one else. I'm not going to name celebrity examples, but
oh, I got some celebrity examples.
There are several of them, and many of them I would say are in the realm of rap and acting.
Were they on Degrassi, perchance?
No, that's not who I was thinking of.
We're definitely thinking of the same person whose name is.
Oh, okay. But I feel like mine also works, no?
Well, no, he's not mad at black people. He's just mad at himself and also Kendrick.
That brand of them is very prevalent, and they tend to do these heartwarming little interviews where they're like, I didn't fit in because I was too white for the black people and then too black for the white people, but they only have animosity towards the black people. And so this was honestly a really funny joke on that. It's the way that they grow up and terrorize the black community with media of black women and the most harmful stereotypes. This is so funny as making him a lone wolf in reverse. Chef's kiss.
They're almost like incels. It's almost like this, they have this gripe against whatever. I don't even know if it's real or imagined interactions or slights, but they just develop anger in this really weird and odd and violent way. I don't know. Black mag is out there. It's that the I voted for Trump twice is y'all are real. He's not he's an exaggeration, but only a little bit, only a touch. It is a satire for sure, but I feel I know a Clifton. I always try to befriend the Clifton, and I'm wrong for it. They're freaks and not nice and misogynistic and also anti-black. But I always try. I'm aw, that guy doesn't have any black friends. Let me try and be his friend. it's always a mistake, but I always try. So let the record state that like I'm trying to be spared when they turn on us.
Okay, I went on a Bumble date with a Clifton once. And it was an incredibly odd experience that we matched because we both like similar music. But like as we were on this Bumble date, he kept saying things like, yeah, I don't just listen to Black folks music. Like I don't exclude myself. And I was like, the fuck? And he was like sort of wearing it like a badge of honor. And then it progressively became like more and more strange to being like, I identify more with anime because like I've always been on the outside. You know, the typical speech of going with like the Black kids didn't like me because I was too white and I was too Black for the white kids. And I was like, I don't know, baby. I just feel like there's a space in between that. Like I definitely won't say that I fit in the most when I was in school. I had like a very small group of friends, but also I just really didn't like most people I went to high school with this. one of them was like on Twitter when they like stormed Charlottesville with tiki torches and was like, on my way to Walmart to buy a tiki torch, like back onto topic. And as we were like sort of ending the date and he was like trying to suss the vibe and see like if we were going to second one, I was like, oh, like I think we could be like friends. And he was like, Black girls never want to date me. They only want hood rat dudes. Like, of course that's what you don't want, someone who's educated. And I was like, what about me gives the vibe that is why I wouldn't want you?
He said you want a himpo.
See, this is why I say it's like the incel thing, because like the like hood dude of their imagination is like the Chad of the incel's imagination. Like I could go on this forever. I don't know who told them that there aren't like nerdy Black girls with alternative interests who won't date them. Like they genuinely don't. Either they're not trying or they're not asking girls about themselves, or they just like are into a very particular type of Black woman who isn't into them. But I simply don't believe their case when presented that way. There's so many Black girls into anime who want to watch anime with you. I promise.
Megan Thee Stallion loves anime. But honestly, now it's gotten to the point where if a man is really into anime, I'm like, immediately no.
Yeah, okay. Well, you guys really have been in the trenches having men on your profiles. I'm not going to lie to you. I don't feel like I've come into like close proximity as this man. I've got to be honest with you.
With a Clifton, you didn't go to school with a Clifton. They're always like in the Young Republicans Club.
I mean, if you saw Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, Carlton is the same thing.
Yeah. Maybe they were like playing off that. They even have similar names. And they mentioned a light-skinned Aunt Viv versus dark-skinned Aunt Viv.
Dark Skin Aunt Viv is insane in real life, but she was so much better on the show.
Yeah, gone but not forgotten, and also not gone.
They did that on Family Matters too, though. That's like a regular thing on Black sitcoms. Somebody from the family is going to get recast at some point. My Wife and Kids, they like covertly did it to I think it was the oldest daughter of My Wife and Kids. And then on the Bernie Mac show, they did it to the youngest daughter. They recasted someone on Family Matters, but I don't think it's the mom. The Aunt Bev one was jarring though, because it had been so many seasons that it was like, who is this? I feel like sometimes maybe you should just write in a divorce at that point, because I'm like, this is very obviously not the same person.
When Raven's mom went to law school, remember that? And That's So Raven.
I feel like her mom was way more fun than her dad as well. And then when her dad was like a chef at the White House for Corey in the House, and I was like, I'm not sure that like he would magically start living in the White House.
We're hitting all Black media today.
Okay, should we read some reviews? One review from Wendy Ide for The Guardian said, this is a time-worn slasher premise. A group of former college friends reunite in an isolated cabin in the woods for a weekend of committed partying and card playing is viewed through a Black lens that comprehensively mocks the tired tropes of a genre. If, for example, it's traditionally the person of color that dies first in a horror ensemble cast, what happens when all the characters are Black? It's the kind of question that the Scary Movie franchise would tackle with all the subtlety of a chainsaw, and the Scream movies would address by tying themselves into smirking, self-referential knots. But The Blackening makes light work of its themes, bringing a breezy wit and satisfying depth of character to the game. Horror purists might find the picture lacking in genuine scares, but go into it expecting a hangout comedy with a few jumps rather than a horror movie with a few jokes, and it's unlikely to disappoint. I like that assessment of genre. I think it is less, I guess it is horror, but it doesn't really feel like that. It felt like, yeah, a hangout movie with a few jump scares rather than like the other way around.
I'm more okay with it than I am with like other horror parodies that are very formulaic and like do the Scream thing, or like, I don't know, Scream and Scary Movie are franchises. So, but like, I don't know. They can all be very similarly unserious. And I kind of like that this one was just exactly that, but black. Like, because these are punchlines that just haven't been told. Like, they're funny, they feel funny and fresh, even if like the structure of the movie feels formulaic, because I'm like, okay, maybe we get like a few of those punchlines if there's a black character in the larger movie. Scary Movie does it, obviously, but like until Wayne's Brothers, whatever. But like, it just felt, I don't know, I've never seen it be like so intentional and like so in on the joke and like not trying to explain itself to non-black people. Like, I don't know, I just appreciate that. Like, there was a little bit of like over explaining in parts, like especially as it relates to the game, like the question asking portion of the game, the trivia kind of thing. Like, I felt like those scenes were like a little explainy, like a little too aware that the audience is not totally going to be black. But like, I think as the movie progresses and like there's like twists and turns and like multiple villains and like the who done it thing, I think they drop off of that. Like, as soon as the game is explained and the rules are set, they stop doing that and I stop being irritated by it.
Yeah. I think in this movie, they kept all the characters alive for most of the film.
Literally no one dies except for the first two people who arrived first.
Like, they were deeply afraid of killing off characters, and I feel like I understand, because it would have been a little bit like a lot to start killing off characters. They have like careers. These are like, the characters are more defined. Like, we know that they have a life, versus I feel like in a lot of horror films we get like zero backstory. We barely know how they know each other. We're just like, oh, here's a bunch of friends in quotation marks at a cabin in the woods, and I guess they're gonna be in a slasher movie, and we don't really get like a lot of background, but we sort of know that these are successful black people who went to college and they live in big cities and have good jobs, and we have like more backstory, I guess, of like, oh, they have like families and stuff. Like, I don't know. I feel like the stakes were higher, so they were scared to kill people off, but also it was like a play on the fact that the black people wouldn't die first in this movie, although technically still the black people died first at the beginning of the movie.
They had to kill someone though. Like, I can't have a slasher with like no one die, because then like why would you play the game?
Don't the bad guys for hire die?
Yeah.
Yeah. But I meant black. I meant like of the ensemble cast.
But I don't want the black people to die.
Well, which is why I think they didn't do it. I think they like didn't kill the core character, because that would be like not great optics for a movie that's trying to address why black people die in horror movies, as you suggested, Tyia.
And like, allegedly Clifton dies. I think he's not dead and can come back for sequels.
For a sequel, it would be really fun. I also love that they have like the drama of taking back your cheating ex. What is a reunion with friends if not being annoyed that somebody is talking to their cheating ex again?
The interpersonal drama was actually super interesting, because like the one friend feeling like betrayed that she like has stopped taking his advice.
That's real beef. Like, I've had arguments where my friends are pissed that I've got with someone in a way that is overstepped.
But then she just throws the fucking Molly in his mouth. That was insane. You can't drug people like that. Chill out, calm down.
Like, I get it, girl. He was very attractive, but also like, we don't take back cheating men.
It wasn't like a first time offense. It sounded like he was like a serial cheater. I was like, I don't know if I can trust that. I don't know. I could, whatever people do in their own business with taking some back who's cheated, like, I think I wouldn't personally be able to get over it, but like, it's between people's business. Like, but like, he was like a serial offender with that. Like, I was like, I don't know about that.
Even his friends were like doubtful that he could be loyal.
There were many positive reviews which talked about the kind of cast chemistry. Peyton Robinson for Roger Ebert said, the cast has incredible chemistry that motivates not only the movie's fear, but its comedy as well. The triangle of distrust creates a secondary plot, contributing not only empathetic beats about friendship and redemption, but plenty of uproarious moments between the trio. Throughout, Robertson and Walls have true romantic harmony, the actors playing the friends. I mean, I thought that was like accurate. I do think that I believed their friendship, and I agree that like this little interpersonal drama, as you said, was believable and hooked me enough to keep me interested. And then Rob Jones for Film Hounds also spoke about They said the Blackening doesn't really tell any jokes that haven't formed part of a stand-up routine already, and because of that, it loses its intensity to its humor. It's all stuff that's quite funny, but because we've heard it before, it just loses an edge. What it does do very well, though, is use the humor derived from the different characters' roles as stereotypes to build a strong camaraderie between them all. They're all distinct personalities who have distinct reasons to react to the situation that they're in the way they do, as well as towards one another. It may not be overtly funny as a horror parody, but it is overtly funny as a hangout movie. Another review calling it more of a hangout movie than a horror. Also, they said that I kind of agree with you, Zeba, what you said before about the jokes being new for a slasher. I agree. But this person was like, I think they thought it was not original, but I think these jokes were original in the context of a slasher. So I agree with you there.
On the cast chemistry point, I also really appreciated this. Felt like a real friend group. It felt like the Black Student Union at any regular college. I felt like I knew. I don't know. There are archetypes in a slasher. So if we think of Cabin in the Woods and was it 5 different types of archetypes? I didn't see any of those overtly present in any of these characters, which I thought was interesting. Even though they are okay, we've got the mixed one, the African one, I don't know. They did have their own new kind of archetypes, but again, not ones that I've seen in a slasher. But none of them was overtly the jock or the slut or the stoner or whatever. I thought that was cool. And even though they each had their thing that set them apart from the others, it like I said, it felt very real and believable. And we do get a lot of backstory just from their interpersonal dynamics that gives them enough characterization that no, I don't want any of them to die. If one of them died, all the rest of them would be really sad. And this is a funny movie, and I don't want any of them to be really sad. So not even that they remind me of my own friend group, because I couldn't map one-to-one on any of these, but it was just yeah, that's true. That is how especially I got the sense that they went to a majority white college, that they glommed together, even though they actually don't have that much in common besides being Black. They all get along really well. It seemed because they were in an environment where they were a group. And that's also why Clifton felt so betrayed by not feeling like he was in the in crowd, because I don't know who else was there to hang out with, probably, but he was in jail, so I guess it doesn't matter.
I like what you said about them not doing the typical slasher tropes, but then doing their own kind of tropes. Misha Wester, for the conversation, spoke about how each character is a kind of Black stereotype in a film that's all about Black stereotypes, and how that's done for the effect of obviously parodying it. So I'm going to read. You have Dwayne, who is the effeminate queer man with the snappy lines and swinging hips. Then you have King, who's the reformed thug, though he secretly still carries a gun. Then you have Shanika, who is the large, loud, aggressive woman, the Sapphire, who fusses at the killers, screaming, "Are you shooting arrows at me? No, stop it." Then you have Allison, who's the biracial woman, determined to prove herself by decrying her white parentage. And then you have Lisa, stylish, well-spoken lawyer who erupts in a brutal rage. And then you have Namdi, who's the athletic personal trainer with a history of womanizing. And then finally there's Clifton, who's the awkward, white-sounding, nerdy misfit, a kind of Uncle Tom or Carlton, is what this reviewer has said. This reviewer is also Black. I feel like that is worth saying for the sake of context. Otherwise, that would have been wildly... I mean, I don't necessarily know if I thought that these were quite as cookie cutter as these stereotypes pigeonholes would suggest, but I do see how the film is kind of playing on each of those tropes to a light degree.
I love that they use the main girl in this, who's a lawyer, whose name I can't remember, even though I just... Yeah, I love how she is the exact same character that she was in Dear White People, the TV show. Because I'm pretty sure that she was also pre-law, so and she was in love with the hot dean's son who was super athletic. So I'm this is the same character.
She has that pre-law haircut.
She does.
I really like her haircut. I love a girl who can pull off a pixie.
I think she may be on the show Reasonable Doubt now, where she's also playing a lawyer. I think she may be typecast as a lawyer, which is certainly something to be typecast as. I mean, there's worse things. I also felt like the romance between Lisa and Nandi was like palpable. They actually had chemistry, which I feel like in a lot of horror films, when I'm told someone's a couple, I'm like, they could be two strangers and I wouldn't know. These people are talking to each other as if they are reading lines. There is no chemistry there at all. But I feel like they actually had like a good vibe and chemistry that I bought, that they had history, and the way that the friends were with him as well felt very realistic. I think this movie works partially because the cast is so natural with each other, and it doesn't feel like I'm watching people perform parts. It feels like genuinely watching friends go through this experience, which is what makes it fun. If it felt like performing, I think it would really take away the fun of the movie because then like the jokes wouldn't land. But the tone in which they're reading the jokes is the way that I speak to like my friends, and it was like a very, I think, sort of, I found this very nice. I felt very represented in this movie. I feel like my friend group from my PWI undergrad is so different than my friend groups that I have from like SOAS. But during my undergrad, most of, if not all of my friends from my undergrad are Black. And we definitely are sort of the same thing where like we are a bunch of Black people who have different interests who just sort of stuck together from the first week and have made it last for over 10 years now, because I met most of those people my freshman year.
Wasn't that also the foundation of you and Zeba's friendship?
Yeah.
We were Black and in the same class. Sometimes that's all it takes.
That's exactly how we met. And then directly after class, we were like, do you want to go get some lunch? As the only two Black people that are in this class. And it worked because now we have the podcast. Because Zeba actually told me to switch into the podcast class. So it worked out. So if you are a freshman going into your freshman year of college, or you are starting it and you're a Black kid, go find some other Black people and you'll have a great time.
If you feel like a Clifton, please don't give up. Please don't let your first would-be rejection be the last time you try. Sometimes they're just roasting you as a way to be friends with you. Don't take it personally right away.
So there were also a lot of reviews that, because like when I watched it, I was kind of in line with you guys that we were like making fun of Clifton or like the butt of the joke. But I feel like there was a lot of reviews, or a couple, I don't know, the ones I read, which were more so talking about how this film in its comedy destructs ideas of like what defines Blackness, and I guess it does. I'm going to read a quote from Peyton Robinson from Roger Ebert again. Given the script's seamless hilarity, it can be easy to glide over all the subtext within. But through character conversations and the thesis of the Blackening game, the movie sharply examines the role of Black people in horror media and culture. Characters are playing the game and fighting for their lives, but underneath the Blackening points the finger at the ways Blackness is defined by a rubric and the litany of ways to have your card revoked. It's all in lighthearted fun to strip Blackness because of not seeing Friday, and story acknowledges this. However, the Blackening also directs a cutting gaze at a reality that, in a world where white people incessantly seek to define Blackness, intra-community judgment and jokes can be harmful to people who haven't had the privilege to be tapped into their culture until later in life. While Story's movie certainly doesn't contain the profundity of modern Black horror masterpieces like Get Out, it isn't meant to. So that was one review. And I did think, I was like, I was up with it until like the last bit, but I was like, I'm not sure if it thought too hard about necessarily doing these things. It's another one where we debate intention versus effect. And I don't know. I'm not sure if the point of it for me was necessarily just to talk about, to like make a commentary on like how we define. No, it is making it's making light of how we define Blackness, but I don't think it's to the end that says we shouldn't. I'm not sure. I didn't think it was that political in its tone. There's definitely like, I think something to the broader political theory of like the concept of race, but that's like a very complicated thing to get into. And I was like, I don't know if this is like going into that, but I don't know. Curious of your guys' thoughts.
I think the film is sort of critical on, I guess, seeing Blackness as a monolith, because all of the characters in the movie are very different from each other. They might all be able to play spades except for Clifton, but they have different They have different interests, they have different jobs, they have different diasporic backgrounds. They have some of them have white parents. It's just like it's not a monolith. And I think a lot of the times in horror films or in films in general, they sort of make Black people be one personality type, especially now. The issue is Black women are always the therapists on TV shows.
Yes, I saw that.
They are always the therapists on TV shows, and they're always like sort of wise and like, yeah, baby, I've been through a lot. And I'm like, yeah, no, none of this, please.
And it sucks because now everyone in real life wants a Black therapist. When Black people need the Black therapist more, you have to wait in line.
Yes. The amount of times that I've heard people, like, I know people are like joking when they say stuff like this, or maybe they're not, but there'll be people on social media and be like, when Black women give you a compliment or like call you sugar or baby, like it just feels better than when other people do. And I'm like, that's nice. But also, this is slightly weird. That's slightly weird, and it makes me feel slightly commodified. I don't know, you guys. I think like the way that we like say things, we have to be careful, because I genuinely am convinced it's from the Black woman therapist thing that's going on TV and media right now.
Yeah, I saw an article that was talking about that as like an extension of basically mammying, because it's like emotional mammying, I guess.
You'll be a very famous Black actress and you'll be like, what is she doing in this like very random and small role in this movie? It'd be like some random indie movie, and then it'll be like, boom, Octavia Spencer is a therapist, and you're like, or Niecy Nash or something. And you're like, what? So I think this movie does a good job at not making Blackness a monolith. Everyone is very different, and even when they're playing the game and sort of pointing out traits that make them the whitest, it's things that sort of show like, yeah, Black people can like ABBA or watch Friends or stuff. It's not something that we can't do. You can't view Blackness as a singular thing where every single Black person likes the same music, dresses the same, has the same sort of education, has the same background, their parents do the same thing. It's just not that. Just like there's a million ways to be white or a million ways to be Asian, there's a million ways to be Black, but we are overwhelmingly referred to as a monolith, or either you are expected to represent the whole race with your singular actions, which is a lot of weight, especially like in workplaces. Me and my sister were talking about this the other day, but I was like, if I'm at work, whatever I do, people will see every Black woman as behaving the same way. Like if I'm annoyed at work, I'm like, guess I gotta go to the bathroom and suck it up, because the second I pop off, they're gonna be like, I knew it, Black women always are angry or something. It's like you're representing the entire race with your actions, because people do not see you as an individual, they see you as a monolith. And this movie breaks that down really well, and I think that's sort of what she's saying.
I think it's most interesting to me that Clifton set the rules for the game, that like he was the one with these hard boundaries about Blackness, because like he was so certain that the reason he was being rejected was because like he was not Black enough, and so he wanted to like poke holes in all of their personalities. But like you're really proving their point that like these people are different with different interests, and they're all just like friends because they like each other. They're actually not all friends because they're all Black, because they're not friends with Clifton because Clifton voted for Trump, and maybe they sense that vibe about him. Like I think that it's also like there's a legitimate reason sometimes to, like they didn't like this dude. Like his anti-Blackness was like, I think they could sense that in him. It's not just like you liking white things in and of itself is not being anti-Black. Judging other Black people for like how they behave and what their interests are, that is the anti-Blackness, whether their interests are like stereotypically Black or not. And I actually think that like Clifton was the most judgmental of the characters, and they didn't have to like fuck with him. Like everything, because he was sitting in jail for whatever all these years, he was just like conjuring up fantasies about like how he had been wronged by his own community. And you know, it'd be one thing if he spent 4 years with these people and they bullied him for all of college, but that's not what happened. He was gone. They forgot about him, and when he showed up, they were like, oh yeah, you. That was so funny. Everybody was just like, I guess somebody invited him, like he has the evite, so no further questions here.
I feel like that was also realistic of a friendship group. But yeah, you're kind of touching on, I think that's what confused me about that particular review, in the sense that I viewed this movie, as you guys did, as more critical of like that particular person in the Black community who feels rejected, and like how silly that is, rather than like veering into a commentary of like how it can even if we're making fun of it, it can potentially be harmful when we say things are, this is Black only. I was like, I don't know. Not that, I mean, I'm reading one extract of a review. Maybe that's not like the whole context or whatever. But yeah, I kind of was doing a lot to like deconstruct the idea of like creating the problems of creating an in culture, I should say, I guess. I do agree that it does like well to like break down monoliths, as it like even has these like slightly, you might be able to say they're stereotypical of something characters, and then like doing the most to like show that they're all very varied and different.
That being said, if they make a sequel, I have a dream cast.
Oh.
Or like just some people who I would love to see in this. I would love to see Gerard Carmichael. I would love to see him in this. I think he would be very funny. Issa Rae would be really fun.
Oh yes.
Can we get all the American Horror Story black girls too? Can we get Gabourey Sidibe as well? We should just pitch this. It's so well suited for a sequel, please. They're never gonna get the funding. It's one of those things that like somebody threw money at one time and everyone's just like probably very excited that it happened at all. And even in the beginning, the joke with was it Jay Farrow and what's her name from Insecure?
Yvonne Orji.
Yeah, that they got killed off right away because they couldn't afford to keep them for the rest of the movie. Like we'd run into that problem with the sequel.
I feel like, to be honest, we might get another sequel just because people will have some white guilt for white people voting for Trump.
That's what we can hope, but I feel like, I don't know, things might be swinging in the other direction.
It was crazy the amount of reviews actually that like mentioned Get Out, and I was like, oh my god, I am so like, even if it's like somewhat of a valid comparison if you're talking about black horror as a whole, I just felt like people were throwing in Get Out into the reviews and it had no business
so
being
different
there. And I'm like, guys, please, it's just like, I think we all like, Get Out was amazing. We've even covered it on the podcast, but like we as a society need to be able to talk about other like horror media made and created by and for black people without mentioning Get Out. It's so annoying. I know I've just mentioned it now, but it's more of a rant.
I mean, to be honest, I feel like because people keep doing this is making me like the movie less, because I'm like, okay, y'all relax. Like, Get Out was good, but like it is not.
That is so Aquarius of you.
But I also just think Us is a better movie.
I agree with you, but I think that's also a very Aquarius opinion to have.
I like them as much as I like each other, but like I like them both. But
if Mila was here, she'd be a Nope advocate, so I'm voicing that.
I also like Nope. Nope is like very, I feel like Nope is in its own category as like a slightly different genre, not necessarily like more sci-fi rather than like straight up horror. And like drama, I guess, kind of sci-fi drama rather than like horror.
I like the messaging of Nope. I feel like Nope and Us had really deep messaging that I feel like you can get so much meaning out of it. Versus with Get Out, I feel like it was the meaning and the messaging of it are very straightforward because I think it was made for a general audience. And, I mean, people are stupid. Like, you really do have to hit them over the head with stuff. And there's still people who watch Get Out and they're like, what do you mean it's about racism? So, I mean, even then.
Yeah, that one was very obviously like legacies of slavery.
Sort of forgotten cities, like income disparity, and even sort of forgetting or separating yourself from other people like you when you have privilege. And like the way that Red does, like I just think there's so much meaning in Us that you can dig through. There's so many layers of things and it's just really well done, and the twist is well done. And then there's also like other things where you're like, is it really the right son at the end? So like that one to me is the best. And then I would put Nope, and then I would put Get Out, which is probably an unpopular opinion, but also I am Aquarius, so
I think I would actually probably agree with you though. I don't know.
I would too.
It is what you said about like the layers of metaphor. Like I think the first movie does chooses its metaphor, which is like, you know, racism, and does it very well. And then like, you know, that's Get Out. But then I feel like the other films obviously have touch on racism too, but like it's just way more like Us is more about class and privilege, as you said, and Nope is about like representation in our fixation, and capitalism and our fixation on spectacle. There's just like that, like those are just more interesting dialogues to me to have about film. But that's only because I do think like Get Out was foundational, and I'm really happy that it exists and to have that conversation. But I'm exhausted with the amount of discourse after it and how it gets pulled into every black horror film as a comparison now as like the benchmark. And I'm like, we can talk about unless you're doing an article that is like talking about black horror and like the canon overview. Why are you talking about Get Out? Why are you shoehorning Jordan Peele in there? Like, why are you doing that?
Don't talk about Get Out challenge.
like a whole subgenre of films that are like very bad race horror, and I'm like, yeah, honestly, for that alone, it's dropping it to number 3.
However, I don't mind that people do that if they're situating it in context of like a black horror canon assessment. So Kim Newman for Empire said that while Jordan Peele uses horror to explore issues of race in contemporary America, this harks back to the broader approach of movies with titles like Blackula and Blackenstein, reworking traditional horror formats in an African-American context with a lot of jokes and about black actors being the first to get killed in situations like this. I feel like that's pretty true of like, I don't think that like this is doing a complex like portrayal of like race horror. I think it is true of like it's kind of a reworking of something, but like a slasher, but like from a black angle and like then playing off of that. So yeah, I quite like that reveal.
And it's just as self-aware of the slasher tropes as any other horror parody we've watched where they like say the rules out loud, where they're like, oh, the not splitting up thing, very funny. Like, I think we may need to split up. Like, acknowledging that like black people in real life and in horror movies handle situations differently, and like them finding themselves, like how would they deal with it. The drugs is also funny. Like they're doing drugs I don't expect black people to do. I don't know very many black people who like regularly do Molly. Like maybe they'll try it. It just doesn't feel like a drug of our community. Same with Adderall.
I'm so glad you mentioned that because I have a review to that effect. Which talks about this.
It was noticeable.
Again, Maisha Wester for the conversation said that Adderall may seem a strange choice as it's not a drug typically associated with African Americans, but with white college students. While cannabis is overly associated with black lawlessness, its increasingly decriminalized and legalized status throughout the US means it's likely to be the only legal substance in Lisa's bag. The Blackening therefore highlights our propensity to racially profile different drug cultures. It also alludes to the racial bias that influences prison sentences for drug use, where black people are sentenced more harshly.
Yeah, I don't know if those were intentional choices, but I certainly noticed it. I was like, I don't know any black people with Molly or Adderall in their bag. Like that's...
Although I have never done a drug before.
Let the record stand.
Actually, never mind. I have taken edibles. But in a state where it was legal, and it just makes me go to sleep. I'm really giggly and then sleepy.
Do you think that they, like, part of the reason they wouldn't, well, they didn't have a cell signal. I think that was the issue. But, like, if my friends were, like, on all sorts of substances, I wouldn't call the police, like, in the cabin in the woods alone situation, especially because they had that bad interaction as soon as they got there. Did they call the police at any point? Like, I think they ran into that guy, but they never called. And then, of course, like the end credits scene is really funny where they like decide to call the fire department. Fire department sprays them with the hose.
That is literally always my solution. I'm like, you can call the fire department and they're also trained for emergencies. Like, I'm not calling police. The only time that I ever called the police was when like my alarm was going off in my house when me and my sister were living together, and they like came and they were like, I don't know what to tell you, like, bye.
I thought it was a park ranger, yeah.
The dynamic with the park ranger was also so funny because, like, to the end, I did not trust that man. Like, literally till his dying breath, I did not trust that he wasn't the bad guy. And he wasn't, like, a good guy necessarily. Like, he just kind of, like, he was giving them a hard time.
I feel like there's genuinely no appeal for me to, like, ever rent a cabin in the woods. Like,
I want to do shit like that.
I would.
But I have no real desire to like go camping. I don't love the idea of like getting bit by bugs.
They were in like an Airbnb. They weren't camping.
But I also know who I am as a person. And like if I saw a bear, my mind would not be like, run. My mind would be like, that is so cute. You should go pet it. Or maybe like me and the bear would be like, we would vibe. Like maybe we would be friends. Maybe we would form an alliance.
This is not Winnie the Pooh.
It could be. Thank you for listening to the Monstrous Feminine Podcast, produced and hosted by Zeba Aurora, Tyia Burnett, Mila F., and Louisa Johnson. Big thanks also go to Sebastian Pizarro for our wonderful theme music. Be sure to follow us on Instagram, SoundCloud, and Spotify at the Monstrous Feminine Podcast, and on Twitter at the MonFemPod. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and Substack, rate and review us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, and follow us on TikTok at the Monstrous Feminine Pod for podcast clips and more fun. All information can be found on our website, www.themonstrousfemininepodcast.com. We hope you enjoy this episode. Brooms up, witches out.